In today's video, we're going to explore the latest rumors from around the NHL, including some potential huge trades around the Winnipeg Jets, possibly is Mark Scheifele on the move this offseason, plus some other rumors. Could we see another Caufield in Montreal? Will the Maple Leafs be able to re-sign Michael Bunting? Sounds like this could be a pretty good market for him if he hits free agency, plus we have a big signing in New York. Several other prospects getting new contracts today as well, and a lawsuit in Tempe, which might have an impact on the Coyotes getting their new arena. We'll discuss all that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here, Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a ton of news and some rumors to take a look at here today. Let's start with the signings, because we do have a lot of those to discuss. The biggest one, likely just getting announced a short time ago, the New York Rangers have signed one of their top young players, centerman Filip Chytil, to a 4-year contract extension at $4.4375 million per year. That's his AAV. So certainly, pretty fair contract for Chytil, who I think it's fair to say maybe took a little bit longer to kind of hit his stride in the NHL and be more consistent. But certainly the kid line, along with Lafreniere and Kakko, has played an important role for the Rangers this year. I do think there is a little bit of question marks or uncertainty, you could say, around some of the other young players on the team. If the Rangers decide after the season that they do want to try to keep Patrick Kane or Vladimir Tarasenko, then it could be very challenging to get them signed along with some of the other younger players that need new contracts as well. So I'll be curious to see if the Rangers attack this, from getting the younger players done first, or how they're going to go about things. But the contract for Chytil, I think, is really fair. I think it's a good deal for him, good deal for the team. He's certainly, like I said, shown a lot of improvement over the past couple of years, and they seem to play, I think, pretty well when the three youngsters there play together. So we'll see. I'd be really curious to see how the Lafreniere contract will be handled, or will they kind of put that off and see about retaining Kane or Tarasenko first. I think if out of the two, Kane's the more likely one to stay, but it really boils down to what he'll take for a contract. We just don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty there. But for right now, this 4-year deal for Chytil looks pretty good. Now, all kinds of other prospect signings today. Let's start with Vancouver. They've signed a left shot defenseman Nikita Hirose to a 1-year ELC, 23-year-old. Was a lot of attention coming out of college. Obviously, lots of suitors around the NHL. It seemed like the rumor was early on, and the Canucks and him seemed to have mutual interest, and that there was likely going to be his landing spot, and that's finally now official. So he'll stay with the Canucks on that 1-year ELC because of his age, of 23 years of age. So he will actually need a new contract in the fall. If they were making the contract effective for next year, it'd be different, because in some cases you'll see some of these other guys have signed and then gone to the AHL on a tryout contract just to play a bit of pro hockey this year. Now, another extension as well in San Jose. Well, all the other ones would be prospects, but the Sharks have extended defenseman Nikolai Nijov on a 2-year deal, $1.25 million per season. Hasn't appeared in a lot of games this year, mostly due to missing time with injury. Certainly something that he's overcome. He's had to go through a lot to kind of get back and play, but the Sharks obviously see him as being at least a good part of the immediate solution for the next couple of years. So $1.25 million is a good contract for that. Low risk and potentially high reward if he plays extremely well. So we'll see. Another prospect update, an undrafted player. The Nashville Predators have signed Jake Livingstone. It was a 1-year ELC as well. Another defenseman, 23 years old, out of college. Has currently won back-to-back CCHA Defenseman of the Year awards from Minnesota State University. So it seems like a fairly promising, mature prospect. So we'll see how that works for the Nashville Predators. The Colorado Avalanche have also made a signing today, signing Jason Poland, who was the captain at Western Michigan. He gets a 1-year deal as well. That's effective for next season, though. For the remainder of the current season, he will go to the Colorado AHL team on an amateur tryout. So obviously, that's like saying the route that some players are taking rather than letting them burn that year off right away. The Dallas Stars have also signed a prospect as well. They signed Matthew Semenoff to a 3-year ELC. Of course, he's only 19. He was a 6th-round pick in 2022. The forward certainly had a pretty good year of growth. Obviously, to get a 6th-round pick signed not that long after being drafted is certainly a good accomplishment for him. Shows that the Stars have been quite happy with how things have gone. I believe earlier this year he actually had an 8-point game in the Western Hockey League. So we'll see how things work for him. But another contract for a good prospect there in Dallas. The Hawks have also signed Antti Sarella who was a 2019 fourth rounder, the Finnish centerman, spent the last 3 years since being drafted, play over in Liga. So he'll make the jump to North America and get his pro career started with Chicago. The Calgary Flames have also made a prospect signing as well, signing William Stromgren. He was a 2021 second-round pick, left winger out of Sweden, who's played in the SHL. Now, the Washington Capitals also, I don't believe the team has announced this as official, but I've seen it from enough reputable sources that it seems to be the case that the Capitals are signing a prospect goalie out of college, Mitchell Gibson. He would get a 1-year ELC. He was an actual Caps draft pick, though, but he's in his 4 years of college. It was a 2018 draft pick from Harvard. So he will go to Hershey in the American Hockey League on an ATO, American Infantry trial, for the remainder of this season. So that's all your signings for today. Slow news in that regard. A couple of other updates on the injury front and contract extension discussions when it comes to the Senators. It's believed defenseman Thomas Chabot is going to be out for a couple of weeks, so another blow for the Senators, who picked up a big 2 points and big victory over the Florida Panthers the other night to keep themselves alive in the wildcard playoff race. Of course, they're closing in on the Florida Panthers, but of course still have a little bit of room to make up there, as well as going to hope that the Pittsburgh Penguins continue to falter. To have any chance, it's an uphill battle, and really it's an outside chance that they could get in, but to have any chance, they ideally would want to be healthy. They're already without Jacob Chikrin, so that's certainly not going to be good in that respect, but they are getting back goalie Cam Talbot. Hopefully he can get back and get at least a couple more starts for the end of the year, which will be good for his sake to kind of build his case where he needs a new contract. There have been some talks amongst Sens media that there have been Talbot in the sense of talked extension, but it didn't really go too far. At this point, it sounds like Talbot is looking for something in the $5 million per year range, and I don't think that's something that the Sens want to do. I don't really think he's played well enough to warrant that kind of money. He's also been injured a lot this year, so I think at this point they're probably having a little bit of a trader regret, you could call it, or buyer's remorse, whatever you want to refer to it as. The trade between Talbot and Gustafsson to the Wild of the offseason have not paid off. Gustafsson's gone to Minnesota and flourished after 2 or 3 years with the Senators being inconsistent and just not looking like he was going to get it all together, but he did Minnesota. And Talbot, he's not been terrible, but it's just all the injuries have piled up and a little bit of inconsistent play. Overall, this hasn't been a fantastic year for him, so I'm not really sure it makes sense to sign him for that kind of money. If he's willing to bring his price down and get maybe a 1-year deal, maybe. Otherwise, good chance Senators move on and re-examine and explore their goaltending in the offseason. Matt Sogaard's been a good young goalie for them, but certainly not quite ready for full-time NHL duty, I think it's fair to say, at this point in his young career. Now, as I mentioned as well, we have I'm not sure if this is going to be a huge deal or not, but there is a lawsuit filed by the city of Phoenix against Tempe, where the Coyotes are trying to build their new arena. Of course, they're still going through the phase of getting everything all approved so that they can get this arena and entertainment district up and going, so the team can hopefully have a place to play in a new home in approximately 3 years' time. It could be longer, hard to say. They do have an agreement with ASU that can be extended if need be, as long as everything goes well. But this lawsuit, I do wonder how much impact, if any, it's going to have. And it's kind of not really clear. The lawsuit's against Tempe as a city, not against the Coyotes. The Coyotes as a team themselves are not mentioned as an entity in the lawsuit. But essentially, Phoenix is suing for the residential development that's part of this whole district that they're trying to develop. It's not just an arena. They're trying to build an arena with a whole entertainment district, including a residential component. And of course, what they're trying to do now is get the courts to overturn the zoning that was obviously recently changed. They're asking the court to rescind the rezoning of the land usage that was recently changed because of the land they're using, I believe, was like a landfill at one point. It's an area that needs to be cleaned up and remedied, and obviously get the prep to even build on. I don't know the full extent of all of that, but I know it's something that they had to go through a bunch of zoning changes to even have the option to develop it in that sense. So at this point, they want to make sure they can prevent future residential use on that land too. So it doesn't mean that the arena can't be built, so it's not a complete bust here, but at the same time, I just wonder, because I don't know the whole breakdown from an investment or a standpoint of the ones doing the developing and the building. If they can't do the residential component, will that make things not as attractive to proceed? I don't know on that front. if it's going to possibly be a deal breaker or not. I mean, like I said, at this point, we can't say with any certainty that it would be, but at the very least, it's going to be the fact that it's in court. It could hold things up. At this rate, they were scheduled to have a referendum vote for the residents to vote their wishes to proceed or not with this project, I believe, which is, I think it was the middle of April, like April 15th or April 12th. I can't remember the exact date, but it's not too far away. So the timing of this is certainly curious as well. I know at one point Tempe thought they had kind of resolved any potential issues or conflicts or anything that could come up this way, and now they're getting this. So I know there's a lot of unhappy people with the Coyotes, with the city of Tempe, and we'll see where this goes, but you have to wonder if this is going to at least put a big hiccup in their development of their future home, and if it'll cause any things to not work out. I don't know. We'll have to wait and follow the story as it develops. Now, onto the rumor section of the video. We got a few things to look at, one being trade, a few other could be some signings here. Let's start with Winnipeg, though. Now, there's more trade talk around the Jets. I know they've been a team we've touched on a few times recently. It seems like Rick Bowness is out of his wits' end here, trying to get this team to perform well down the stretch and get into the playoffs. They've not played well at all. And, I think you could call it embarrassing shutout loss to the San Jose Sharks recently, last night. This team is just not playing well. Rick Bowness himself, after the last night's loss, even made comments saying that if the top stars of the team think that they're giving it their all, then they're sadly mistaken. Like, he had a really long chat with the media and certainly was not afraid to call out his top stars. And like Mark Scheifele is a prime example who, in the early stages of the season, it looked like Rick Bowness found ways to kind of rejuvenate him and get through to him, to have, hopefully get things back on track at Winnipeg. Scheifele, Wheeler, Hellebuck are all nearing that, somewhat close to the end of their contracts. Like, it's kind of rumored at this point that they're going to probably see a major upheaval in Winnipeg this offseason. At one point, you thought the PLD, Pierre-Luc Dubois scenario was going to be the big story, where we've seen the last reports we talked about a few days ago with Elliot Friedman saying 95% chance that Dubois ends up in Montreal this summer. Well, that's pretty significant. You would think that would be the biggest and main thing that's going on with that team, but it may not be. Like, if Scheifele and Wheeler and if they start to see these other guys go, then Hellebuck might want out too. I think guys like Connor, Ehlers, Morrissey, they're probably not going anywhere. They have a long term on their contract. They can still be good building blocks. They do have some good prospects to build around. I don't know what we're going to see at Winnipeg, but between like Perfetti and Lucius and Lambert and so on, maybe if they do make some trades, they'll get some other top young talent to come in and kind of do a bit of a quick retool, rebuild on the fly. I'm not sure how they're going to go about things, but would not be shocked at all between the way the last season ended and the way things are going now, and comments from Rick Bowness. I think some of these guys need to get a first start as a result, and I think Mark Scheifele is right at the top of that list. So we will see where things go in Winnipeg's front, but we're going to see some major changes, I think, there this offseason. Now, another rumor as well, could we see another Caufiled in Montreal? And it's a possibility. Cole Caufield, some of you may not know, actually has a brother, an older brother, 24-year-old Brock Caufield, went to the University of Wisconsin, of course, like Cole did, and has just finished up his season and was named MVP of the team, and is going to be, obviously, he's a college unrestricted free agent. Now, he wasn't the star player that his brother Cole was, but he's 24, right winger, similar size to his brother, 5'9", 175. The scouting reports from a few years back when he was getting a little bit more attention when he was younger said that he's dependable in all zones, more of a playmaker, but certainly, a decent player all around. There wasn't a lot going on that way. Obviously, he was not drafted, so certainly not getting the attention of scouts like his brother did, being a high first-round pick. Now, there's no guarantee that Montreal will sign him, but certainly we know Montreal is looking to load up on young talent. Certainly a lot of Habs fans have been talking about Brock, where he's been getting more attention. He looks a lot like his brother as well. I'll show you a picture of him here on the screen, and he's also featured on the thumbnail of this video in case you haven't seen him before. It's crazy how much he and Cole look alike, but could be another interesting player. I mean, obviously familiarity there with family, with Cole Caufield being in the mix and being such a star player. Obviously, he's going to be a big focal point for Montreal this offseason, needing a new contract. So that's going to be one of the the big news stories we follow on the Habs universe this offseason as well. And could his brother join him? I know there's a lot of Habs fans who would like to see it, and we'll see. Could be a player that they certainly have their eye on. And it could Michael Bunting end up leaving the Maple Leafs. I know it's something that might seem something you wouldn't expect to hear. And I don't think it would be anybody's first choice. Now, full disclosure here, I think Michael Bunting would want to be a Maple Leaf for life. I think that, he's obviously a Scarborough native, born and raised, has a long relationship with Dubas and Keefe. I don't think there's anybody saying that they don't want Michael Bunting, and I'm not saying at all that Michael Bunting doesn't want to stay in Toronto. The whole point of this conversation is I've seen some articles lately and some comments from TSN analyst Mike Johnson suggesting the kind of contract that he could get on the open market may make it tough for the Maple Leafs to keep him signed. Obviously, it's going to be a pivotal year for the Leafs, and I think a lot of their decisions is going to be based on how the playoffs go. We know that Kyle Dubas, starting right at the top of the pecking order here as a GM, does not have a contract. Will he be back next year? It's not quite certain. I mean, certainly, if they have some playoff success, I would imagine he would be, but there's still that level of uncertainty that nobody knows. You have a big year as well when it comes to Austin Matthews and William Nylander are due possible contract extensions. They're going to be entering the final year of their deals next year, going into UFA status. I would think that if Austin Matthews goes into next season as a Maple Leaf unsigned, that is going to be a major distraction and it's going to dominate the media and the news headlines around the Leafs. So certainly, I don't think that's something that the Maple Leafs organization would like to see. I think if the Maple Leafs enter the season and Matthews is not extended, I think there's going to be an awful lot of nervous fans and an awful lot of nervous members of the management team with the Leafs organization. So personally, I just don't know that that's something that they're going to want to do. So obviously, signing Bunting, is it important? Sure. But they've got some bigger fish to fry this offseason. I wonder how much of a priority things are going to take and how long it could drag on before they, kind of go down that road. So Bunting, of course, hits free agency on July 1st, whereas, Matthews can't even consider signing until July 1st. So it could all be simultaneous. Doesn't mean they can't talk numbers behind the scenes and have something worked out. But I would think that before they sign Bunting to any kind of a longer-term deal, that they're going to want to have numbers in mind and figured out for Nylander, Matthews, and even Elias Samsonov. And other guys come in this year, primarily been the starting goaltender since Matt Murray's missed a lot of time. Certainly played better than Murray. I think Samsonov has more of a future with the Leafs than Murray does, and he needs a new deal. He's going to be due a good raise as well. So again, it's going to be complicated if we only get a minimal salary cap increase from to keep Samsonov, to keep Bunting, to extend Matthews, extend Nylander, and it's going to be a very complicated summer for Toronto. So Mike Johnson feels that if Michael Bunting hits the open market, he's probably going to be able to command a 6-year contract around $24-25 million total value. And like I said, as much as the Scarborough native would love to stay with his hometown Leafs, it just might be challenging, and he might have to take a haircut on that to stay with Toronto. So it's just a player that's going to get a lot of attention on the open market. According to Johnson, he said he's asked around the league, talked to a lot of other league executives and sources, and thinks that there would be a big market for Bunting. A lot of teams would love to have a player the way he plays, playing with an edge, playing on, not afraid to be aggressive, not afraid to throw big hits, and it can be difficult to play against. He's a scrappy, yappy kind of player with some offensive upside. So certainly, a guy you hate to play against, but like having on your team. So there's no doubt he could get an overpayment in free agency, and the Leafs might not be able to keep him. So we'll see what happens, but certainly yet another story between Montreal and Toronto. There's going to be some major things to watch as we approach this offseason. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news or rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.